Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Legion in Portland here for the candidates meeting for Bastard and South Burgess and South Crosby. I welcome everybody here this evening. If you could please stand, remove your hats, and address the flag. We'll start off and follow me in O Canada. O Canada, our home and native land, true command. With glowing hearts we see thee ride, the true North strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Thank you. I'd like to introduce the citizens, the representative from the Citizens Forum for Democracy, Mr. John Carlin.
Thank you, Roger, and welcome everyone. First of all, I'd like to express appreciation to all of these people who are up at the front of the room and have had the temerity to put their name forward. Secondly, to thank the Legion here for allowing us to have this meeting. I think these meetings are very important and we all appreciate that. Some people probably do not understand what the Citizens Forum is, so I'm going to just read a sort of an accepted format for the forum. It's really an informal gathering of citizens who are primarily from Dietz and Frontenac and Lanark and Grenville, but there are people from other areas, including BC, Manitoba, Quebec, and New Brunswick. And we have quite a disparity of people. We even have some past prime ministers who are on our emailing list and who correspond with us. We even have the odd senator. And I'm not talking about Duffy in this case. These people really have got together as a result of being concerned about the significant decline in what we perceive to be Canada's democratic processes in recent years. And our objective is to share these concerns with our fellow citizens and to offer thoughtful responses to issues as they arise, and to offer positive remedial proposals through informational, educational, and political action. We are nonpartisan, but we are definitely political. We will do anything that a group of people feel that is advisable, that we think is in the best interest of a community or a province or Canada-wide. So with that in mind, I'm going to pass around tonight, because I was asked by a person who has attended our meeting in Elgin if they could join Citizens Forum. And sure, anybody that wants to is put on a mailing list, an email list, and they're informed of meetings. They're informed of ideas that are being expressed by the people. We meet periodically, and right now, between now and the next federal election, we'll be meeting every month. But, you know, we don't have a closed house at all. So if you want to participate, do so. I'm also putting through on this panel, because of some questions that were raised at our meeting in Elgin, if you would like to participate in a Rideau Community Development Program. So this will be passed around, and if you want to answer, put your name, email, that's fine. If you don't, that's also fine. Thanks, Roger, very much for helping out in setting up this meeting. You've done an excellent job. And now we'll let you introduce our moderator for the evening.
Thanks, John. For anybody that does not know me, my name is Roger Gibson, and I do reside in Rideau Lakes. And for the people that don't know me, I was elected to 4 terms of council in Gananoque. I was acted as the deputy mayor as well as chairman of general government and finance. I was 19 years on the planning board, and I was a council rep to the police services board in Gananoque. This evening, I know, pardon me, some of the people know some of the roads because you've attended Elgin, but I just want to go through them briefly. It's not a town hall meeting or a debate. This meeting is an opportunity to listen to the candidates, to answer questions, some of them which will be submitted. Actually, these won't be submitted. These are questions that were left over from Elgin that will be submitted tonight. You can also still put them in the question box at the front, and it will reach our moderator. We'll try to answer as many questions tonight as possible. This is an opportunity for you to listen and to evaluate your candidate, to establish a clear and concise picture of who you want to represent you in the next 4 years. Please refrain from interrupting the candidates during the responses. We realize as well that your questions may not be all answered, but we'll do the best we can. Candidates, when asking a question or when a question is asked of you, please refrain from any current council position unless it's directly related. Your duty is to answer the questions so as the audience can establish your position. Please refrain also from referring to another candidate, as the public is again only interested with your response to that question. This was brought up at Newborough meeting, and I think it has to be addressed. Please, when asking questions referring to conflict of interest, you must sign the question slip in order to submit it to the moderator. I'd like to warn anyone that conflict of interest is a very, very complex topic and is a challenge to any candidate it may have serious consequences. The Ontario Municipal Act is very clear. We have numerous administrative staff, as well as more than one candidate that has family working or representing Rideau Lakes. Please do not confuse assumption with actual direct conflict. Okay, we're going to get into the questions. It's my pleasure this evening to introduce our moderator, Carolyn Knight. She's been working for 20 years as a lawyer. She's a partner with the law firm of Viner Kennedy in Kingston, which is a 9-lawyer firm. She's been a member of the Gananoque Rotarian Club since the mid-90s and is past president as well as a Paul Harris Fellow. Since she's been on the club, she has chaired political functions not only for provincial, federal, and other municipalities as well. She's been married for over 30 years and has a 17-year-old daughter. Your moderator for this evening is Carolyn Knight. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to start the evening by giving all the candidates an opportunity to tell us why we should vote for them. The mayoral candidates are the first 3 candidates. They'll each have 2 minutes. And the rest of the candidates will have 1.5 minutes. We have a timer that's going to cut the sound off, so there's no chance that they're going to go past their time. They're going to have an opportunity to know when they have 20 seconds left. They'll hear a bell, and we'll let them be as succinct as possible so we can get an idea of where they stand. So we're going to start this evening with Ron Holman.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I do want to thank the hosts for sponsoring this evening, and certainly for you being present and for the Legion to allow us to use these facilities. We're fortunate that we live in a country where we can come out and we can have our democratic rights and say what we think without being chastised by the government or whatever the case may be, and be able to express our opinions. So many in the world today would love to have these freedoms. They don't. All you have to do is turn the TV on and see what's going on in the world today. So we should be thankful, very thankful, that we can be here tonight, all of us. While we have different opinions, at least we can express them without worry. And you know, I can't think of a better place to acknowledge that than here at the Legion tonight. I do want to mention why I want to put my name forward. I'm proud of our township. I'm proud of the residents. I'm proud of the volunteers we have. I'm proud of our township as a whole. And believe me, I feel we've made great progress in the past. We've only touched the surface. We have a long way to go. And I'm committing myself to you to carry that forward. Let's just start to paint a little picture of some of the issues locally. And I'll just talk about the local ones, not the whole township. roads. We've gone from 18% hard surface to 55% hard surface. Stop and think of what the cost would be if we hadn't hard surfaced those roads. The Kin Park, just across the road, putting lights up so the youth of our community can play soccer in the evenings, baseball. That's a plus for the youth of our community. And believe me, we have the seniors, our seniors complex in Elgin. Affordable seniors, where we got 1.44 million in a grant. And there goes my 20 seconds, and I've already even got started on this page, so I'll save the tail end at the last. I have a long way to go, folks, and I do ask for your support to allow me to continue on to make our township a better place for you to live. Thank you very much.
Donald Wills.
First of all, as all you should know, the only reason I'm running for mayor is I do care about the township and the direction in which it's headed. That's all I'll say on that. I think our thoughts should be directed to the newly released financial statement for 2013. I perused it, and what I see is the grants haven't increased in 2012 or 2013. They've stayed the same, but we've gone further into debt. Senior citizens home. I wish we had one in every village. But what I see in the audited report is we have a debt of $1.25 million. We lost 21,000 last year, and we lost 30,000 the year before. So who's going to pay for that? It's you and me. As the warden of the head of the Warden's Caucus in Eastern Ontario said, any municipality that has to deal with senior citizen complexes, they're in a risk of being taken down financially with the burden that they're going to carry. And that's direct from the chairman of that caucus, which Mr. Holman belongs to. Our debt, I've gone over it with the August financial statements that are available online, and I figure it's about 14.25 million. So from 6.6 at Elgin to 9.3 at Lombardy, I can rest assured we're in the neighborhood of 14 million in debt.
Thank you and welcome all. I'm not going to get into the debt number because it's going up and down all over the place. You can find that out online. It is over what the mayor had stated earlier. The main disadvantage of borrowing our revenues are dedicated debt repayment, and they're not available for other uses. A municipality with low debt payments has the flexibility to respond to emergencies and unanticipated events. An open and transparent government are the keys to our residents. There are too many issues here with the tax boards going through hoops and Freedom of Information Act. This is fundamentally wrong. This is your council, we, the public. I will ensure that you get all the information, except the in-camera stuff, and everybody understands that. Our road maintenance program has to have a new direction. Ditching will be done on our gravel and secondary roads on a regular and timely basis. We focus too much on tar and chips, and we've all seen where we've had to replace that. It's not the right thing to do. We have to find a better way to do it. Our sidewalk maintenance in the village, somebody's going to tell you later there's going to be a lot of senior citizens in this area, and we've got to have good sidewalks for them. Tourism, our major economic driver in this area. The township must ensure our visitors and residents have clean, clear lakes, docking boats for boaters, safe roads and trails. To do this, we must have support all our lake associates to keep the water clean. We need to support trail development for those who walk, snowmobile, ski, ride, ATVs, horsebacks, and just enjoy the trails. This is a very important part of economic tourism. Council is a team. The mayor is only one vote. We must work together to bring our township into the future. With my leadership, I know I can make Rideau Lakes Township a place that's affordable, accessible, healthy, and safe community to live in. We have a bunch of good candidates. Don't forget to vote. Thank you.
Doug Good.
Rob just said he didn't want to listen to me. I hope the rest of you do. Good evening, folks. I put my name forward to help serve this community. I've worked hard at the community. Rob referred to lake associations, trails, helping volunteer to other events in the community. I believe that we have a good community. I think we can make it a better community with a lot of work. One of the things I find, everybody says, oh, it's on the web page. Well, I can tell you, when I look here, the cross section, not everybody reads the web page, so timely information either through the papers or by other means is essential to understand what's going on. I can also tell you that these events like this tonight are important because I've attended every one of them and I've learned a little bit more as I go to each of them about the debt, about how it's being repaid and so forth. And I think that one of the important questions is to be able to get to council and ask the important questions. Not only debt, we got to ask a question about liabilities.
Banks?
Hi, I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. And the reason I'm running is because I do think Rideau Lakes is a wonderful place to live, but I also think there's a lot of opportunity for improvement. And one of the missing links is this government does not take the people into consideration. I would like to see town hall meetings once a year in every ward. We need to listen to you. We need to find out what you're willing to pay and what services are important to you, not to us. I agree with hard surfacing roads. I also agree we are in debt over $14 million, and I find it sad that the mayor and his staff refuse to tell the candidates what that debt is. We have to look past hard surfacing everything. Heritage is important to me, seniors, youth, water quality. We need to keep our residents in this township. And without jobs, economic development, and affordable taxes and housing, they are going to stay. So I would like to see a much more transparent government where people can go on their Facebook page or go on their website and see a rolling number of our debt. See the recorded votes and the comments so we know how our councillor voted. It is very difficult to get any answers from the township. And if you ask a question, they want you to pay for it.
Kathy Livingston?
Hi. I'm Kathy Livingston, and I'm running for council because I truly care about our community. I have done a lot of work within the township, within my own community of Delta, where I'm from, and I believe that this is one of the best places in the world to live. So I do what I can to help, and I hope that I can serve you better on council as well in that role. One of the, I've been on council since for the last 5 months, and there is a lot to learn. I'm still trying to figure out everything that's going on with it. So given the opportunity, I look forward to serving on council, serving on the different committees and boards that are part of council, and trying to make decisions that are good for all of us, because this is what it's all about, is for the betterment for everybody who lives in this township. And I believe that together we can make a difference and make this a progressive community for all of us to live, and that other people want to come and join us.
Brad Banks?
Good evening, everyone. I'm running for council because over the last few years, I've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of people from the public and get their views on things. And I really believe we can put a hold on borrowing, get our property taxes on hold. There's been talk of taxes going up another 3%, possibly 5%. I believe a lot of people are maxed out. We need to get that under control. Excuse me. And also, I've served on a lot of volunteer boards as well. Ken Park, as the mayor has spoken about. And yes, I really would like to take care of our seniors as well as our youth. There's great programs out there for our youth, but we need to get better, and we're striving to make that better. And lastly, we need to take care of you. You're why we're here, and we need to be open and honest with everyone and make it easier for you to get the information that you need firsthand, so you're not hearing stuff secondhand from other people. Thank you.
Claire Gunwick?
So I managed to hold off until March of this year to register to run for council, and I couldn't figure out why I was the first one, because I wanted everybody else to be as excited as I was for the opportunity to review our communities and reflect on what we want. I guess you should vote for me if you want somebody with maybe a more positive, naively so perhaps, but a more positive outlook on the future. I don't really like being an anomaly, that I've gone off to university and then come back home rather than staying in a city. I think that we need to focus on growth and on our future, and that would help to solve a lot of the problems that we have right now in terms of spending and trying to balance a budget with a shrinking population. We wouldn't need to raise tax rates if we could raise the number of taxpayers rather than having villages that have high vacancy rates. I think that better cooperation from the township and the planning and the building departments with residents and developers and businesses would help to encourage growth as well, and better communications, and we should probably be able to fill our schools again. It would be nice not to have triple grades anymore for the kids.
Robert Taylor?
Thank you very much. It's been a very good pleasure of mine to have served the last 4 years, and I'm very honored that I was given this opportunity. And it gave me an opportunity to learn about how the government actually worked in the local area, and the stresses and pressures it's under, and a lot of the good things that it wants to accomplish for its people. I spent many years here. I've lived here 35 years, and I decided that at the end of that time I wanted to contribute in another way, rather than just being on various community boards and stuff like that, and actually be part of the decision making and developing a future. So I want to continue the growth and transparency, the growth in developing programs like Text2 that will attract the young to our area, because we all know that as the seniors grow, they will need services of the young to support this. And my hope is in the next few years that we'll all see the advantage of living in one of the most beautiful places in Ontario, in fact, in Canada. Thank you very much.
We're now going to move to the questions, and actually most of the questions I have here are from you here tonight. I've got a few from Elgin, but mostly from here. And we have a lot. So we're going to actually limit the answers to 1.5 minutes. So they have to think fast on their feet and get to the point. We're also going to take turns as to who gets to answer first, so no one feels like they're always the one that gets to think fast and other people get to wait. So we're actually going to start with Donald Wills. He's up first. So, first question. Will you update and enforce parking bylaws to reflect improved sight lines for pedestrians and emergency vehicles during peak times and community events?
I didn't know it was a problem, but you learn something every day. I guess it's one of the things we have to address when people come to council and want an event. So I think people can work together, whoever's on council, and work with the event organizers, and we'll draw up a plan. Because I've gone to Lyndhurst during the Turkey Fair, and if there was an emergency there, you wouldn't have much luck getting through it in less than 20 minutes, if you're lucky. So yes, there needs to be guidelines.
Rob Dunfield?
Certainly safety is paramount in I'm sure in everybody's mind, but if there is an issue with parking, if we're not aware of it and you haven't brought it to council, we can't repair it. We just are in the process of fixing some in Newborough as we speak. They were parking too close to the corners, and when they're pulling up from the grocery store that was always busy. Now that has to go through the county, and they're a little slow at doing things down there. But certainly any of the villages where there's parking issues, we can fix them. Let us know what they are, and it's a safety issue, it will be fixed. Thank you.
Doug, good?
I'd go way beyond just events, because if you look around this village, you look around the other villages, it's an issue all year, all summer long. I was pathetic here this summer to watch one trailer in particular sat for 4 weeks. No vehicle attached, just sat there. Yes, and there was a couple of RVs that ended up on the streets, and they were there for about 6 weeks and not moving. It's not just events. For events, we take them into account. I'm involved with the organization of Skate the Lake. We take them into account to get down. We took them into account for the farmers market. So these were important items to make sure it's there. But it's a major, I feel, for the community, is a major question. I'm sure the Delta has it with the fair. So it's one that's got to be addressed. And the current bylaw is very weak, maybe you would call it pathetic.
Paula Banks?
I've also seen it in the summer in Portland and at Delta Fair. Parking is horrendous. But I think it goes back to having town hall meetings. If you don't live in Portland or Delta and you don't spend time there, you don't really know what the issues are. And I think whoever gets elected should have town hall meetings once a year and address these issues. Nobody wants to drive to Chantry and take a day off work to tell them what your problem is. A lot of people don't want to send an email. We should be coming to you to see what you want changed. You should not be coming to us. Thank you.
Kathy Livingston?
Safety is a big issue in my books, but on the other hand, I think it's great when we have so many people coming to our area. So there you go, on both hands, but you also have to have the parking. And at our Christmas season and during our Delta Fair, we do try to have parking, people out making sure everybody's parked, but it is, probably needs to be a bylaw put in place for that to help with making sure people aren't sitting there as long, for 6 weeks at a time on the streets, and that everything is in safe order for people who want to come in and need to park in front of a building or whatever.
Brad Banks?
Being an Elgin resident, I do know at one time there was parking violation signs up. There were no overnight parking signs, and different areas. Where they've gone, I really don't know. I do believe it does need to be addressed again and brought to council and be dealt with there. I don't think it's just a safety issue. It's an issue that needs to be dealt with 365 days of the year.
I would say that in general, I wouldn't be in favor of having more regulations in our township, because we have quite a few already. But I'm not familiar with what the parking bylaws are like right now. So I would say if they require some reflection and some updating, then that would have to be something I would look at with a little more information on my part.
Robert Taylor?
Well, I'm glad we have a parking problem. That means there's people coming into our communities. And I'm glad that we'll have the opportunity to correct any insufficiencies in taking care of that parking. Traffic control is common to all civilizations, no matter where you go. And I'm sure that we'll be able to approach it and deal with it in a practical, knowledgeable manner.
Ron Holman?
I think for specific events, certainly our OPP, that's what we have a detachment for. And if they're aware of it or aware of an event, they certainly will look after traffic control. That's what they're paid for. That's part of their job. But I want to point out one particular one. There's no greater issue of safety and parking than at the Crosby intersection on a Saturday morning on July the 1st and during the summer. That's the most dangerous parking situation we have, and that's the one we're fighting with the Ministry of Transportation, and thanks to Steve Clark, we're taking that forward, and right now there's an environmental assessment going on there to see how we can solve that problem. We don't want to take the traffic away. It's great to see all the people there at the event, but it's a dangerous situation. That's probably the best example I can give you of a situation in my mind that's out of control from a parking perspective, but we're working on it. We're forcing the government to relocate that highway over farther so that there's more room and that people can get parked in a safe way.
Next question, we're going to start with Rob Dunfield. Are you in favor of tendering services to give local businesses a better chance of supplying these goods and services?
Absolutely. Services supplied by local taxpayers and local residents should be on the first of the list. There should be a point system, how we send out and buy our services. They do it in Gananoque, they offer the Gananoque people a better rate, and we should be doing it here. There's all kinds of local services here that we're going out of the township to buy, and those people aren't paying the taxes here. I think it's just ridiculous that we've gone that route, and that's so simple to do it. So, and the same with the hiring program. We should be hiring within first. Do it on a point system, and they get extra 2 points if they live here, however we do it. But it could be worked on and very simply put together to help our residents who are paying the taxes here and live here and reside here. And it would be a great program to put together for especially the small businesses where there's one person working on it or two persons. We buy stuff in Perth when I know there's vendors in Rideau Lakes Township that have the same stuff. Why? I can't answer it, but certainly if I ever get elected, I will make a program and a policy that we're purchasing locally. Thank you.
Doug?
I have no problem with local purchasing, and I believe it's certainly beneficial to the economy. I think the question is the opportunity. Yes, give them the opportunity. You've got to realize the international law, I think it's over $25,000, puts certain restrictions on you, so that's got to be accommodated. But I've written enough contract tenders and developed point systems for weighting evaluation of the contract that yes, it can be done, that it can give some recognition to local businesses and give them the opportunity, because it's a question that's been asked by many, many local businesses if they could do it. The answer is yes, I would support it.
Paula Banks.
This is one of my biggest pet peeves, and partially because I have family that owns business in Rideau Lakes. And I know personally that George Tackerberry does a lot of work for this township. And it aggravates me to no end to see people come in from out of town and get work that he should be doing. It is true, there is systems out there that allows us to, use our workers in this township. But what aggravates me the most is when I read in the minutes that they hired a well driller out of Kingston without even contacting anyone from this township. And they told me it was because of it was an emergency. Well, I think calling someone local should have been your first step if you have an emergency. Thank you.
Kathy Livingston.
Yes, I support local services as well. We depend on people, and we're trying to bring small businesses into the community, so if you're not going to support them, then they're not going to come. The other thing is, we go to businesses locally when we're doing our adult affair sponsorships or whatever, and we're asking them for donations. So if we're going to be asking them for donations, we should be supporting them and doing what we can to help them so that they can stay active and their business will keep going. So as much as we can help them, I believe that we should do that.
Brad Banks.
Along with development, this is a huge thing for me. We need to use the resources we have. We have quality tradesmen, carpenters, mechanics, small engine mechanics. We have all kinds of small businesses here that we should be using first, foremost, before anything else.
As chair of the South Crosby Rec Committee, I know that we always make an effort to buy our supplies locally because we're usually having events locally, so it just makes sense to, do what we're trying to do, which is encourage our communities from every angle of an event, and I would think that that should apply to the township as well, and I approve.
Robert Taylor.
Thank you. Yes, as a small businessman for over 30 years here, I would always support being a little more receptive to local business people. But of course, as a township, what we have to do is first evaluate not only the price of the product that we want, but the excellence of the product. And I think you'll find most of the time when we're doing a tender or anything, the final decision is made on the lowest tender, and that to me creates a long-term problem sometimes, because then you're not getting the quality that you may want. But the first thing that will happen to you as a council when you accept a tender that's higher is you will get a lot of questions why. So you have to be very assured that the quality you're getting is worth the price you're paying.
Ron Holman?
This is a hard one to answer in a minute and a half. There's a number of issues. First of all, is the issue of, and Doug touched on it, is the Free Trade Act. And again, certain value, if you're getting a grant from the federal or provincial government, you're mandated to go out and get competitive bids and not restrict where you get those bids from, or you won't get the grant. I can assure you of that, particularly if it's over a certain value. The second thing is, most of our products we do attempt to buy locally, and we do buy locally. And I'm just a little bit amazed that perhaps some are not aware that this is what's happening at the present time. But the question then becomes, if you go out for a tender and you ask for a price on the tender and you don't accept the low price, does that person that gave the low price have the right to sue you for the loss of not tendering? So maybe then you have to go out for an RFP rather than a tender. So you have to be very careful on where you're going, and then what price are you as taxpayers prepared to pay as a premium to have locally? Is it 20%? Is it 10%? Is it 5%? So there's a lot of issues there, and it's not just a simple yes or no, but I can assure you that we take everything into consideration before we award a tender, both from the legal, from the grant, and the whole perspective. Thank you.
Donald Wills?
The main issue I keep hearing from people in business in this township is there's a favored status that we have to go to the township for good quality work. And the local business is left high and dry through the lack of information or whatever. I hear about this all the time. I know in a neighboring township the road commissioner has a right to ask for quotes from various contractors on a small project under 25,000 or 50,000, where he can allot a tender without taking it publicly to a notification of tender. And he determines what the best price is. You got all these little small contractors here. The prime example is the docks in Newborough. A RIFT went out and they asked for the best quality for that job. They chose one contractor proposal and they didn't go to tender to get other prices. The other contractor knew what they had to spend and he put in a price that was compatible with that, what they had to spend. It's your tax dollars that's being wasted with this attitude that you have to go to the township to get good quality work. There's a lot of people here that know what they're doing and they can do it.
Next question, we're going to start with Doug Good. Are you in favor of reviewing the bylaws and permit fees in the township with a view to making the township more inviting for new construction and business?
The answer is yes. I think the first question should be asked, how many permit fees do we have that have never been used? You know, if you buy a set of taps over $75, you're supposed to get a permit fee to put it in. It doesn't make sense. One of the things that I couldn't believe and I'd like to see as a resolution right off the bat is we had Bob Bolton lose his house last year. I'm told that one of the first things he was told when he was asked what he was going to do next, he said he was going to take it down. Oh, you've got to get a demolition permit. That doesn't make sense. There can be some understanding. So yes, there's a lot of fees and stuff that need to be looked at. You know, I was highly bemused. I looked at the budget summary. We spent $34,000 on bylaw enforcement. We never brought in $1. So there's something wrong in dog fees or something.
Paula Banks?
I'm 100% in favor of getting rid of the fees for building new homes and for like taking down buildings. I think in order for us to be sustainable, we need population growth. We have over 4,000 people that are part-time residents in this township. We need them to be here full-time. When I was going door to door, I ran across tons of cottages on Lower Beverly and the Rideau that said, I'd love to tear down this house and build a home, but I will not do it under the current building department. We can no longer have that attitude. We need to be open for business. We need to be available. We need to have our staff working with these people. It can't be no all the time. Maybe sometimes they could say, you can't do this, but you could do that. Thank you.
Kathy Livingston?
I think we need to review probably all the bylaws once the new council is in place, and the building bylaws and the permits. However, some of the revenue that comes into the township is from some of these permits that are granted, that are given, and you also have to think of waste disposal and different things that go on. So I think a review of all this would be acceptable for a new council to look at and take consideration in what it's doing to the residents and also to the council.
Brad Bings?
The short answer to that was yes. The scenario that Doug just gave you, I live that, and I know there's other individuals in this room that have been part of the same situation. And I would, if elected, I would love to take a serious look at our planning and services department and get people developing. We need this area to grow. There's all kinds of opportunity for it, but the process that it has to change. Right now, nobody wants to come into Rideau Lakes, and I say that, I hear that all the time when I'm walking and talking to people, going door to door around Elgin. Nobody wants the hassle. It should not be a hassle. We should be opening you with open arms and get people developing in this area.
Claire Gunaway?
I'd be in favor of a review of the bylaws and permit fees, but I think, like other people have suggested as well, you know, development fees aren't something unique to Rideau Lakes. I think that probably our issues are more to do with an attitude adjustment. I know that communications haven't always been very good, that maybe the township hasn't been as cooperative as one might hope they would be. I think there's a lot that people have to try and find out for themselves and discover as they go along. And it would be a lot easier if township administration and councillors were experts on building in the Rideau Lakes, and could therefore really enable everybody else to do whatever they would like to build whatever they would like to build, develop whatever they would like to develop, open businesses in ways that are safe and sustainable and won't affect water quality, for example, or I guess fire safety. But I think the fire safety area has come up a lot, as well as possibly being an area, as being one of the bylaw areas that have restricted development.
Robert Taylor?
For the most part, most of the development fees and permit fees and all that stuff is put in, and the building code, have been developed over the last 30 years to protect the customer. And in the final analysis, it's to protect the insurance companies and the banks. So if you want to build a house and you want to have a mortgage, you have to have it, somebody stamp it to make sure that it will achieve the correct parameters to be accepted as a mortgageable object, or one that can be insured. If you don't want to take part in any of that, if you don't need a mortgage or anything, well then we should develop ways that people can develop their dream homes to build what they need and what they want. So that is a guidance process. The township should be guiding people in terms of developing their dreams. It should not be a legal issue how you build your house. It should be how you can best achieve the dream that you actually set out to do.
Ron Holman?
Maybe I misinterpreted the question, but I think the question was to do with the fees we charge, not so much as what's in the Ontario Building Code, which we are mandated to administer on behalf of the province, and that's every municipality in Ontario. I just want to point out one thing. As far as fees go, we do review it. Remember, planning, there's two things, building fees and planning fees. Planning fees have to fall within parameter. They're self-sufficient, much like water and sewer. So you can't, the municipality can't make on that. You have to charge what it costs. That's by law, and we have to report that every month. So take the planning issue away, and let's get back to the building issue fee. And there's a number of issues, and we do review these numbers every year. And council, you know, I mean, Rob and I have sat on council for 8 years, and we've reviewed these numbers a number of times. I just want to point out to you, to get an application, here's an application for a provincial grant. The $50 million that was just put in the recent budget. And one of the questions is, explain your fees and your development charges and your user fees. So in other words, if you haven't got user fees or the proper level of fees, you wouldn't even stand a chance to get a grant. There's the application. We were able to fill this in, send it in, and get a grant for $200,000 for the Wiltsea Bridge. That's the only one in the United Counties, Louise and Granville, that got a grant under this program. And it's because we have things in place in order to get every dollar we can out of the provincial government.
Donald Wills.
The direction the planning department has to take, when you elect your new council, the new council and mayor has to make it perfectly clear as to the direction they're going to deal with the taxpayers, the customers of this township. We are being blackballed. We're paying a premium to our contractors for working in this township. It's a fact. I've had one local resident that has lived in this area, his family from first generation, said, I'll never build in this township again. The building department is too combative. It's empire building. It doesn't matter what you're going to do. They'll fight you every step of the way you go. They have to work with you. If I go into the lumber store in Westport or Smith Falls and I buy run product and I'm building it around the surrounding townships, they'll pass that. If I do it in Rideau Lakes, well, it's not compatible with the building code. You can't use that. You'll have to take that out. This isn't right. We have to work with you, the taxpayer. That plain and simple.
Rob Dunfield.
Do you mind just telling me that question again? I thought it was about fees, but I'm getting lost to it. Thank you.
Will you undertake to complete a review of the bylaws and permit fees to make the township more inviting to new construction and new business?
Now, I understand the question. Thank you. I don't have a problem with that. Our development fees were instituted approximately 4 years ago. You can get me wrong with that. And at that time, there was some of the council wanted our full development fee, and some didn't. I think that we squared it off about 50% of what we're allowed to charge. I voted on that again this just past season to hold them and leave them where they were. The bylaw fees, there are some that just shouldn't be there, like the one that you need a permit to take down your house after it's burnt down. That's not right. And it's not a problem to go and put that towards all council and just go over them. And it should be done yearly because there's some aren't right and some should be increased. And so if you don't pay for them that way, you just pay for them in your taxes. So there's a fine line there where it's good for the taxpayer and it's not good for the taxpayer. And we have to weigh that and look at all our fees to understand that. It's not just the bylaw fees and the development fees, it's the user fees. They have to be looked at to make it fair, because if you don't pay for them there, if you don't pay your $2 garbage fee, your garbage fees are going to go up and that'll just be on your taxes. So you have to, it's a fine line, and I think that all the council has to look at that on a yearly basis before they do their budget, but it'd be a great time to do it. Thank you.
Next question, we're going to start with Paula Banks. What is your commitment to preserving culturally significant heritage buildings?
Well, my great-great-great-great-grandfather fought in the War of 1812, so I'm very interested in heritage. And I think that we as communities must also commit personally. The hall in Chaffee's is a perfect example, and we need to follow their lead. That hall was ready to close because people, the rest of the taxpayers, were not willing to put in the money to save that hall. The people in Chaffee's took up the fight. They have, I think Dave Brown told me, over $100,000 personal money committed to saving that hall. They ended up getting a Trillium grant. I think heritage is very important. We as a council need to support it 100%. And that's why I go back to hard surfacing roads is nice, but there's other issues that are important to other people. So I think we need to level out what we think is important and find it from the people what they want and what they think is important.
Kathy Livingston?
Well, I live in the community of Delta, as most people know by now, and we have gone through a Delta Community Improvement Plan program and working with the Township Planning Committee. And we had a town hall meeting in last fall, and one of the biggest things that came out of that was to keep heritage and culture in our community, because we have some beautiful old buildings, like the old stone mill, and I'm a director and a member of the Delta Mill Society. The old town hall just went through some restructuring and through a Trillium grant that they got as well. We have our Jubilee block that we're trying to do, and that's just in our community. I know there's other places like the Little Red Schoolhouse that is trying to always keep it, keep it up to date and keep things going. So I really support this because it's part of our township. It is what people want to come to see when they come. They want to come and have an experience, to go through a museum or to go someplace where it's like something different than the city. So I do support them. Thank you.
Brad Banks?
I support them as well. When my kids started going to South Crosby Public School like I did, one of the first questions we talked about the red brick schoolhouse, and it brings back a lot of stories, and they were very interested in all that, in one-room schoolhouse atmosphere. And so yes, I think it's very important that we pass that along to the kids of the future.
Claire Gunwick?
I think that if I can sort of echo what somebody else told me, Dave Brown, I guess, again with the Chaffee's Locks Hall, you can't just preserve buildings because you want to preserve buildings. People have to really take an interest from the grassroots, and I really hope that's what's going to happen for the Morton Hall. I think that it has happened for other culturally significant buildings like the Red Brick Schoolhouse, and the Township hasn't always been there to help make things easier. The Elgin Area Heritage Society normally receives a grant from the Township and didn't get one in the last budget. I think that preserving older buildings in general would be preferable to building more new houses because it creates more work for locals, for local businesses, and it makes our communities look healthier from the outside. I personally wouldn't be in favor of building more low-income housing. I think that there are so many vacant buildings in the villages that it's a shame to make them even more irrelevant by building this sort of newer, cheaper housing and not looking at options to create programs to get people back into some of the older vacant homes and buildings.
Robert Taylor?
Thank you. The preserving of culture and heritage, it's a very basic of a community development, is those two elements. It's what attracts new families to an area. It's what brings tourists to an area. I think at all costs you should do whatever you can to save and preserve them. But that has to come from the community itself. It can't always be at the cost of the total taxpayer. It usually comes because somebody loves that building. I have a church that was built in 1905 that I have for studio, and I have a schoolhouse I live in that was built in 1895. And I love those buildings, and I'll continue to work on them until I die, because I have a great affection for that type of structure, because you cannot build those things again. And they still have a lot to offer to those who are willing to take the time and effort to make them into something. So of course I would support that. It will always bring in new people and tourists.